Hello and welcome to the 6 o'clock club. Thank you very much for joining us. And a new face over there is Matt. Some of you will have heard his voice when we did the it was a play test, I think, wasn't it?
It
Of
was, yes.
yeah. I think that's the correct terminology for it. A play test for something that we've been working on, but more on that in a minute. And Matt is going to sit there quietly, or going to interrupt me all of the time. You know me, I don't care either on my button. Um, well, we'll talk about last night's game and tonight's game as we do, filling a little bit of time waiting for people to jump into the chat. So, last night was our fifth edition, Dungeons and Dragons fifth edition game of Fortunes Untold. We had Adrian, we had Roz, we had Felicity, we had James. They battled their way through a couple of encounters and then finally confronted the big bad, which was this spirit naga and their handmaidens. Um, the players were on it really. Some fantastic tactics, a lot of very clever crowd control. Um, until they realised the Spirit Naga had Dimension Door, and suddenly it all kind of fell apart a bit. There was a dramatic and very critical moment in it where the Spirit Naga basically cast the highest level it possibly could, which was fifth level lightning bolt. They'd all accidentally lined themselves up, not realizing this was going to happen because of the movement through the use of spells and the like. Um, and yes, it would have taken three players and it would have been 10d6 each damage. Um, it could have possibly. Hey there, Jack. Thanks very much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to tonight's game as well, which I'll come on to in a minute. But we had something that was interesting at this point. Um, one of the characters was a paladin who was, in effect, the bodyguard of the two of the characters. It was kind of his wards, really, and he'd always played up like that. Um, so it was very appropriate. And he basically went, "Is there anything I can do to, um, you know, to kind of protect my allies?" This was after the saving throws had been rolled and all three of them got failures, so they were taking most definitely 10d6 damage. And I kind of like a devil's bargain, as it were. And I basically, it's the rule of cool. Once again, I said, okay, you can stop all of the damage going through to the other two characters, all of it, but it will count as a critical hit. You don't have critical hits on saving throw things, but it will count as a critical hit. So instead of 10d6, it will be 20d6 damage. And without a second of a thought, because that's what his character would do, he jumped in the way, and it took him down. Not an instant death, but I mean, bearing in mind he's got a very good armor class. He'd only really been scratched through the whole of this in a single shot, as he kind of pushed himself forward with all of his metal armor to prevent this electricity, this lightning bolt striking his trusted wards. Yeah, and he went down, and it was a dramatic moment, and some absolutely fantastic role playing of all the characters. He did survive. He did survive, um, but there was a good chance, there was that always that doubt that that might well be it for it. So it was an exciting moment. It was the big bad of this kind of small sort of story arc, and very very appropriate. Um, and it was a pleasure to be running that, being part of that scene that opened up. And I think it's bonded the characters together more. They're a good group of friends anyway. But you know, when characters, there's sometimes defining moments, and the two wards of his have always been, oh, you're just always like in the way, you won't let us have any fun, you're always just looking after us. And I think for a while anyway, that seeing him being electrocuted and go down like that has kind of twisted the narrative a bit on their relationships, which is going to be fun to see in the next few sessions.
Nice.
So that was kind of one of the big things that happened. There was something else as well, but I'm not going to mention that. That was something special to Granite, who plays. Granite is the name of one of the characters. It's a half orc, sort of multi-class rogue fighter. But they have currently got a parrot that they purchased called Squawk, and he's not all he seems to be. And that's all I'm going to say. There was a little bit of a reveal last night, but it's still out there. And then we come on to tonight's game, of which Jack, who's in chat, is going to be playing part of. It is, of course, our Critical Role game set in Exandria, Wildemount to be precise. And it is our Icebreakers game. It's been going for a while, and I keep mentioning this, that all of the Critical Role games that I play, it's kind of strange, really. Obviously, the people that jump into the game are fans of Critical Role. Obviously, it's set in their game world, but all the games feel like Critical Role games. The way that the players sort of role play with each other, and there's all of these interpersonal relationships. And don't get me wrong, there's some games that run that we have that anyway, because each table is different. Some people like to, do a dungeon crawl. Some people like to do full-on role playing or whatever. But the Critical Role campaigns that I run tend to sort of blossom into that style of play. And I don't know why I said it's strange, because it kind of makes sense, if they're fans of the show.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, there's combat and everything else. There's a ton of combat, and the icebreakers are a force to be reckoned with. At some point, I quite like the idea of doing battle royale with some characters from different sessions, because some characters are most definitely underpowered, because of the style of the session that I'm running, and then some are most definitely overpowered, and it's overpowered madness, and that's by design. Hey there, Elsa, thanks for jumping in. Don't apologise. It's your time. The very fact that you are with us is fantastic. Um, so very much looking forward to that. Sudden rush at work, but you made it. Thank you, Stealthington. It's great. This I probably know who you all are in chat, but you've all changed your names, so your names don't appear. So I have no idea who any of you are, and that is kind of exciting. Um, uh, Jack says Ace, which is his icebreaker game, is definitely his most strongest, most OP character. At the moment, I'm fairly certain that Bonk will rapidly overtake him, because Mythical is an insane setting where everything, all magic items and powers, are a lot cheaper and stuff. But Ace at the moment it deals a lot of damage. There was a lot of damage dealt last session. I'm looking forward. We finished it on a little bit of a cliffhanger. Go back to the 6 o'clock show 2 weeks ago, and you'll find out what that was. I don't want to repeat it now. So we'll be starting on a little bit of a. It's not a cliffhanger. I mean, you know about words. I mean, what do you call a cliffhanger when you return to it?
So technically that is what's known as a hang cliffer.
Hang Clifford, yeah, no, I'll make a note of that. I see what you've done there. I believe you 100%.
Yes, yeah, that's absolutely true.
But it's an interesting point, isn't it? We ended on a cliffhanger, but what do you start on?
Yeah,
Uh,
looks like it. An epic resumption also.
Yeah. No, no.
Okay.
But if you know in chat, if you're watching from the future on Cash Up, video on demand or whatever, put it in the comments. There's got to be a term for it. I can see that Matt is googling it now. I know what you're all up to. I know what you are all up to.
Not
Oh, look at me!
no.
I'm clever. I know what it is. Just a minute. So I'm gonna interrupt Matt by asking him some questions.
Oh no, don't do it.
So this is Matt for people that have only just arrived. Matt is collaborating with me on, well, literally what it said in the title. I feel I'm fairly good at creating ideas and perhaps orally kind of telling a story. But I am terrible at everything, kind of putting it onto the printed page. So first of all, introduce yourself. Like let our chat, our community know sort of your background.
Cool. Okay. Hello. I'm Matt Beams. I am a writer. That's my main background. That's where my kind of passion and enthusiasm lies. And I've been a freelance and professional writer for 10 years now. That's terrifying. With yeah, sort of formally 10 years, but been writing since I was about 16, which is a terrifyingly long time ago now. So my main one of my main sort of focuses so far in my career has been writing for the theatre and the arts in general, but I've also written a comic book. I have written for film and lots of different types of live performance, as well as prose, very questionable poetry, and lots of different things. So basically, lots of storytelling in my background, and that's where my passion is. And in the last sort of 5 years, I've very much dived into the world of tabletop role playing and D&D and all of those other games are very much my passion, and so I'm now starting to branch out with Andy in writing adventures and stories and helping people tell stories in the sort of the medium of tabletop role playing, which is awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
I think there's a massive crossover, a correlation between theatre
100%.
and tabletop, and I mean
Yeah,
you just have to look at all of the actors that are coming out and going. I used to play Dungeons and Dragons. It's why I became an actor, etc.,
yeah.
etc., etc. You know,
I
um,
mean, and that's the joy of something like and Critical Role with being an obvious example of they're all voice actors.
yeah,
And that's part of the reason why I think their characterizations are so much fun, but it's also, what's nice is that that's not why it works. Why it works is the fact that they're a bunch of friends who are sitting at a table telling a story together, and I think that's what I've always loved about uh, tabletop role playing in general
yeah.
is that it's collaborative storytelling, and it's fun, and you don't know what happens because everybody can change it in any way, shape, or form at any moment, and that's
Yeah,
that's where the joy comes in, I think.
absolutely, and the excitement. I mean, I think I would find it very difficult if I was running the same game, uh, repeating the same game over and over and over again,
Yeah.
and almost the players were being railroaded. So, each encounter was going to be very similar. Literally tonight, I have no idea what's going to happen. I've got the plot, I've prepped it, everything, but that still means next 3 hours anything could happen, and
Yeah.
there's a degree of excitement I think there for everybody really, because the players themselves don't know either.
Yeah. Absolutely.
um yeah, very strong background, and it's quite interesting really. I would never have known you if it wasn't for um kind of not even a chance meeting. We were literally put together, weren't we?
We
um
were.
do you want to tell the story?
So, I through another venture, I also part of my writing work involves editing. And I have been working on a project editing a series of adventure game books. Um, and through that contact and the people who sort of run that project, I was then put in touch with a chap called Gordon, who owns a company called Dragon's Forge, who make tabletop miniatures. So he approached, or we started talking about writing some. Well, he has fantastic miniatures and models that he wants to get out into the world, and he wants to do that in companion, like combining them and pairing those with some adventures and some things that so you can have the models, and then you can have a game that you can pick off the shelf and play the game using these awesome models. And to do that side of things, he started talking to me, and then he knows, or you know him quite well,
Yeah,
Andy,
yeah,
from a friendship, a long friendship. And so, kind of, he had the idea of, well, these two people are very good at both what they do, and if we put them together, perhaps they could do ridiculously awesome things together, and we can sell or make some really cool stories to be told. And that's kind of where it's all come from.
yeah,
So that's what we've been working on. It's been 3 4 months, 3 months now, I think,
yeah.
that since we started working.
It's been a fair time. I don't know what the lead time is for actual. I know like Wizards of the Coast and some in-depth publishers. You know, they work on products for a year and a half, 2 years in advance. But the brief, it was quite funny really. The brief for this, and it's going live on Kickstarter. Hopefully, should have been February. It's pushed back um, to March now because um, it's quite a complex project. Our side of it really is done, isn't it? We've written
Yes.
it. It's all done. We've kind of play tested it. Uh, it went through a large number of different drafts. I'm super excited by it. I think it's a great adventure, but we
Yeah.
were somewhat constrained because this wasn't just us going, well, what madness can we do? There was a brief. We literally were commissioned in effect to stick to a brief to reflect these, and they are super awesome miniatures.
Very, very.
Um, and because it's a complex project, because there's a miniature side to come into it as well, and everything needs to be in place, um, we've submitted I suppose we call it a scenario really. That's been fully approved, and Dragon Forge very much likes it, and it ticks all of the boxes of the brief. Um, but we need all of these other pieces to come into place before it
Yeah.
can be, kickstarted properly. And that's the sign of a professionalism. It's not kind of like just being thrown out there just because to make some money. I know that Dragon Forge is very keen on ensuring the very best is done in the design and everything else.
Yes.
So
And I
it's sorry.
the other, sorry, just I think the other focus is very much, I think, from his own experience of Kickstarters in the past, Gordon is very keen that the Kickstarter finishes and people aren't waiting around for months
Yeah,
before they get the thing. The aim is that, the Kickstarter campaign finishes and hopefully is successful, and then within the space of a couple of weeks, all of the stuff lands and you've got your reward straight away. And I think that's another reason for kind of making sure that it's as far along as it can be. Um, yeah, so hopefully it's when it hits, or should be good to go in March, and landing
yeah,
and should be really, really good. And I think, yeah, it's a good fun adventure with lots of really cool miniatures to go
absolutely.
with it.
Elsa said, "Did you say miniatures?" I know Elsa is a big miniatures person.
They are
Also,
very cool
how have
miniatures.
you got a Kickstarter and this is the first time I'm learning of it? Amazing. Yeah, I'm pretty excited. Just to clarify, it's not our Kickstarter. It's going to be Dragon Forge Kickstarter. All we've really done with this is, and I say all, that's me being what's humble, I suppose. What we have done for this is we've worked together to create a full scenario, a good number of encounters, an appendix with a sort of a settlement setting that is mainly sort of plot hooks. I'm very excited about it. I think everybody who knows me knows I don't like to I wouldn't put anything out there that I wasn't actually really proud of. And both me and Matt, or Matt and I, have had conversations about we want to get this right. So humble. Elsa says, "Okay, okay." Um, you never truly know whether I am or whether I'm being sarcastic. Um, I've got the arrogance of a dragon because that is my birth sign, and at the end of the day, live with it. Um, but yeah, no, it's amazing. I will put the Kickstarter link in the comment section so you can go across. There is actually a holding page for it, so you can click on that and it'll send you updates about it. I mean, it's the first thing like this I've ever done, so I'm super excited about it. Um, the miniatures are gorgeous. I think you will love the miniatures anyway. Um, Dragonforge have got this very well. Firstly, they are incredibly experienced. It's not like, oh, let's design some miniatures. They really are on the top of their game, and they've brought in some exceptional talent, which is one of the reasons why I was keen to be associated with them. Um, so I can't actually sort of recommend it enough. But it's your own money. You make your own decisions. Go see what you think. Might be for you, might not be for you. Um, but you'll hear much more about it as we get closer to it. It should have been February. It's now going to be March. Um, it's called The Riddle of Rotwood Bog. We are planning on doing some actual plays of it as well, so some live streams of us. And I'm not sure how we're going to do this yet. I'm not sure because the original brief or the first initial concept was a one shot, wasn't it? So we
Yeah.
kind of started off with that, which it's what we do. We run a game in 3 hours. Um, and then it kind of grew and grew. So it's a scenario. It's not a full campaign or whatever. Um, Certainly, probably could be completed in 2 sittings, but easily expanded into a fairly extensive story arc if you wanted to. Not the main scenario, but when you throw in all of the other NPCs and everything else, you'll hear much more about that from us very, very shortly. But I can only speak for myself, but I really enjoyed working with Matt. So we
Very much
had
so.
we had conversations, and the conversations went, you know what, maybe we should just do some more stuff. Um, if the Dragonforge thing goes well, they want us to do some other ones of those, but we're talking about outside of Dragonforge, literally. It will be twisted narrative publishing ish kind of thing, really, where you will see most definitely recognize some of the encounters and adventures that you've played in come into life. So we're working on that at the moment. Um, if you do some talking, Matt, I'll go and see if I can find the quick starter, the Kickstarter link, and then I'll stick that into chat.
Great. Cool. Yeah, no, just to kind of build on what Andy said, I think we both really enjoyed the relationship and kind of the what's lovely about working with Andy is that we've had a couple of scenarios where I've kind of gone, oh yeah, no, Gordon's given me some things and I've got some imagery, so I'll send that over to you, and then we can both start thinking about a possible storyline. And then I got an email in my inbox from Andy before I've managed to actually send him any of the pictures with an idea for a storyline already. So it's been kind of really, really nice to have that immediate creativity. And I think we've bounced off each other quite nicely. And we both very much have a focus and a belief in the importance of story and the what D&D and other tabletop gaming can do for storytelling and kind of making that, the aim is this is fun at the table, whether that's fun with a bunch of miniatures there or whether it's fun on a video call table or however it works. The aim is have fun and tell some bonkers and silly stories and fun stories. And I think that's what's really nice about Rockwood. Definitely does that. And I think some of the projects and the ideas that we've got working on for the Twisted Narrative stuff as well is going to definitely bring a lot of potential chaos and some really, really fun, quirky moments going
Um,
forward.
absolutely. Absolutely. I'm very, very excited. And kind of pleased. But before we announce what we're doing together, you've got something coming out first, and
Yes.
I feel like I always talk about me, which is only right. It's my show, it's my club, you're my community. But occasionally, so people don't think I am that arrogant person, I've got to let other people talk about things. So you're coming out with a sort of a special Kickstarter sort of
Yeah.
project.
So basically, I wrote a short story about 5 years ago, and which I really, really liked and really enjoyed. And the world's always stuck in the back of my head. And then I had something of an epiphany a couple of weeks ago about how it could be turned into a solo journaling RPG. Um, and so the idea wouldn't go away. So I then spent the next 2 days making it. And writing it out as a journaling RPG, which you can play with. So the idea is it's a play with a deck of cards, and you create a character, and then you play the game. By every kind of gaming session, you write one or more entries in a journal in this worldscape. And not doing this with any other intention than as much as anything to see if I could and to see if it would work, and I think it has. And then I discovered that Kickstarter have got they do a thing called Zine Quest every year, where they promote or encourage people to produce little RPG zines inspired by the ones that you used to get in the 70s. So I've turned it into one. This is a very, very rough version of. So the game is called Remnants. Remnants, a record of the broken world, and it's set in this kind of post-apocalyptic frozen landscape where the world is recovering from the world's been decimated by a war, but not a war between anybody on Earth. Earth became a battleground for two giant races who didn't care about the planet they were on. They just needed somewhere to fight their war. And we were kind of, some survivors have made it through, but the world is basically broken and shattered, and this frozen kind of new ice age. But life is starting to come back, and so the game is, you are a traveler in this broken landscape, and it's a journaling game where you draw cards to get prompts for each diary entry, and it's kind of this hopefully relaxing and sort of bleak but not necessarily hopeless, calming landscape. I'm waffling now, so I'm going to stop. But
Okay.
so basically, that's the idea. I'm currently working on the artwork side of things. This is kind of very, very much a very rough kind of the sort of thing it might hopefully look like, and it's going to be available in a physical copy, hopefully, and a PDF. And I will be hoping to launch it in a couple of weeks with a bit of luck. So I'm talking with the person who's doing the art for me tomorrow, and it will hopefully be ready to go in a couple of weeks. I am going to stop talking now.
It'd be good. And it's a solo journal as well, so it's kind of like, I mean, I get the impression, and I could be completely wrong here, like the Fighting Fantasy books. Is it a kind of? It's not so much.
It's more kind of prompted storytelling.
Yeah.
So the idea is that there's kind of 5 stages to each diary entry, which is sort of setting up camp, what the weather's like, what you remember from, or what happened in the day, and then what happens over the evening, and then what
Right.
you hope for tomorrow's journey. And so the idea is that you draw either all of those prompts or whichever of those prompts that you choose, and it sort of guides you in telling a story. And
Yeah.
so the prompts are very kind of, there are different types of prompts depending on the suit of cards and the number of cards, and we shall see.
Yeah.
So,
No.
but yeah,
No.
I think it's quite cool, and I think the world's quite engaging and different and intriguing. So
Yeah. No. I'm excited about it. I like prompts because prompts just basically spark my inspiration going off and take me down
Absolutely, yeah.
sort of amazing directions. Once you go live with it, obviously we'll share it with our community so everybody can
Great,
go and have a peek and a look.
lovely.
I suppose it's probably the best time to talk about the thing that we're working on, our own collaboration, really.
It
We're
seemed
also,
like a
yeah, we're kind of looking to try and get this launched in March as well. Um, and uh, I I said I wasn't going to talk about the OGL again, but obviously, uh,
plan.
both myself and Matt had conversations sort of December, like, okay, shall we do something together? Wrote it in diary January the 1st. Right, let's publish lots of things. Obviously, the go-to is sort of fifth edition D&D.
Yeah,
Oh, this is going to be amazing. I've got so many things that I've already sort of written, but not in a publishable form. This is going to be awesome. So, we've play tested them, we've used them with. I'm so excited. We're going to really hit the ground running. This is going to be. Oh, what's this on my Twitter feed? Oh, yeah. Oh. And yeah, you can imagine it kind of. Well, it's certainly not the wind out of my sails a little bit. Um, and I went from right, yeah, I'm finally going to do this. I've got the perfect partner, perfect collaborator to do this. I'm yeah, so stoked. Yeah, it seems that Wizards of the Coast one too. Anything that we publish, they kind of want to have as their content, and it didn't deflate my love for fifth edition, but it basically put me into that spinning mind of, do we do fifth ed? Do we do system generic? Do we wait for the orc to come out? Um, and it's been quite an interesting month. I mean, fortunately for us, it didn't overly affect us, other than kind of made us deliberate. My heart goes out to the people who had already just launched Kickstarters, or just about to do Kickstarters, or had a ton of other projects already published. But it seems for the moment that has gone a full reversal. We are looking to do the first one as a fifth edition sort of supplement. It is going to be, I suppose we would call it a scenario, really, but it's a scenario plus. And the working title is. I mean, hopefully it'll be the published title as well, but is Fortune Favours the Kobold. Um, it's going to be fairly low level, so probably levels 3 to 5, but with the option of starting at level 1 with some kind of adventure hooky type stuff that we're doing there. I'm hoping to bring all of the madness that I put into my games to it, and but we've got a number of interesting tweaks. I've been playing around with concepts, how to start games and the like. So there might be a few sort of surprises in there as well. Um, I think we've got the framework for it. Would you say now more or less in place?
Yeah. It's very much the kind of the overarching structure is there. And what's been nice about um, working on the Dragonforge project is it's kind of given us almost a little bit of a shorthand in the language and structure of the document as well. And I think what's lovely is your these kind of concepts and sort of broader ideas so there's a lot of opportunities for GM tips and guidance that's going to go in there as well. So I think it's definitely in a really strong place, and it's just sort of the meat on the bones is the bit that now needs to be
Yeah,
done, and that's where we've got to really. But I think it's a really nice. I think it's a really fun story that's got a lot of opportunity for some
yeah, yeah.
utter chaos, which will be fun.
Absolutely, and we're kind of playing around with format and sort of structure of it. Like we said, with GM's tips as being a little bit of a guide as well, um, as well as a few other things that um, might become apparent sort of later on as we discuss it. We've only got a small lead time if we do want to bring it to sort of market as they would say in March. We're now in February, so but we're working on quite a few of these. So if they are successful, if people do like them, the idea is to expand them. um, Absolutely, Jack. You'll be, be one of the first people invited. And as I mentioned in a few other 6 o'clock clubs, I'm very keen to start doing some actual plays again. And I think they're going to sort of focus, well, sort of happen on sort of fortnightly Tuesday and fortnightly Wednesday alternate sort of things as we get our sort of act together to kind of advertise these. But I'm very excited about it. There's still a little way to go. We still need to look at formatting it. We still need to get some artwork in there, and we are deliberating what the best point to purchase is as well, whether it is going to be a kickstarted product or whether it's going to be just put onto probably not DM's Guild now, but maybe Drive Through RPG, that kind of stuff. And for our first one, I think we are 99.9% certain it'll probably be PDF format rather than
Yeah,
a sort of physical product. But
yeah.
who knows where we'll go with
I
that.
mean, the big dream would, you know, that leads into potentially physical compilations
Yeah.
and physical books and stuff. Who knows? We might get billions of people wanting them. In which case, who knows what we
Yeah, I mean, you never know, and I mean, I know there are some people that I speak to that have got experience
do.
with Kickstarter projects, with producing excellent tabletop game material. So, no doubt I will be coming and tapping into your minds to see if there's a best way or pointers, things to avoid, and everything else. But it's a work in progress. Excuse me. I am hoping that it'll be the first of many that we're going to throw out there this year. Um, and I think to our minds is we kind of almost want it to be like a sort of cheapish price point. So we're not looking at a sort of high price. So it's accessible to everybody as well, rather than going, oh yes, this is going to be a $30 product or whatever. So we kind of want to try and make it affordable, and try and get them all to sort of link together. At the moment, we're looking at two, in effect, I suppose, campaign settings that these things will be set in, which the Twisted Narrative community will be familiar with. The first one is Mythical, that we've been running for a good number of months now, and then well, the Untold Chronicles world, which is the Tales from the Smoke kind of setting as well. So one will be very high fantasy, where we can do kind of crazy madness, and then the other one slightly darker, more steampunky, um, a sort of more grim sort of setting. In terms of system, as I say, the initial ones will be definitely 5e, and then we'll be looking around, not because we don't like 5e, but obviously D&D 1 will eventually be released, and it's whether we want to continue with that. If there's still a marketplace for 5e product, we might stay with that, depending on the OGL, or we might make it system neutral, which means you can play it for Pathfinder, well, any system basically. Literally, the definition of system neutral means that you can play it with any system. But I'm, as you probably can tell, very, very excited to actually be working on a tangible product. And I'm very, very pleased I got introduced to Matt only a few short months ago.
Very much likewise. I think it's hopefully a really exciting future stuff to come. So definitely watch the space, and the first of many things, hopefully.
Yeah, and to not necessarily to end on, but as a sort of afterthought to that conversation, I've put on YouTube already somewhat called Dungeons and Dragons elevator pitches, and they are sort of single, double line sound bites. I did these yesterday, and they're kind of scenario hooks. And those are little bits of spoilers of potential titles or scenarios that we might be thinking about making into a published work. I'm not happy with the format of how I've done them, so I might redo them. I think perhaps having me on camera, because it's all about me after all, sort of verbalizing it might be a little better. The text on Fantasy Grounds on the videos was a little bit blurry. I thought it would be quite good to have the text, and I might play around to get the text a bit like the 6 o'clock club or something else. So it's a work in progress, but something that I'm keen to do. But what I'm trying to say is, if you're interested in seeing what we might be producing in the future or the far future, check out those. They're literally 30-second sound bites. Give them a watch, see what you think. If you like them, the more likes we get, the more we'll go, oh, that one's hot. Let us do that one next. And there's many more of those to come, so keep an eye out for them as well. I mean, it could be argued that somebody might come along, look at our YouTube, and go, oh, that's a clever title. I'll publish something. If they do, they do. There's plenty more ideas. I'm not worried. I think the one thing that we've learned about the OGL debacle is we're all stronger together, and let us share ideas and grow together rather than try and keep everything kind of hidden and mine. So that is my final thought. Do you have anything else you would like to say?
No, not really. No, just thank you very much for having me, and nice to meet everybody. And thanks for comments and stuff in the chat. And hopefully, this is not the last you will see of me.
No, I say you're welcome to the 6 o'clock at any time. Even when Christian's on, we can have the three of us. If you want to chat about sort of anything or just get involved, it's been a pleasure having you on. I've thoroughly enjoyed the last 45 minutes. It's just flown by again. So thank you very much for listening to us. Thank you for coming on board and meeting Matt. Thank you, Matt, for joining us. It's an exciting time. I don't think I've ever, and I spent most of, perhaps I shouldn't say that, but I'm going to say it anyway. I spent most of my life being very excited, but I'm even more excited now. So it's great. It's absolutely great. Yeah. So in the meantime, big thank you to Matt. Big thank you to you in chat. Big thank you if you're watching on catch up. Please, if you get chance, if you can work out how to do it, like and subscribe, because we kind of need that to happen. But if you don't, that's cool as well. Look after yourselves, look after each other, stay safe. We'll catch you all, hopefully, 6 o'clock tomorrow. Take care for now. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.